Alrighty, here we go. Let me read this problem and then we'll start attacking it. It says, Adriana has 12 available hours so Adriana has 12 available study hours for algebra and biology. Okay, and so we have several parts here that they want us to illustrate or write or represent as an inequality. So it says here, let X represent the number of hours Adriana spends studying algebra, and let Y represent the number of hours that Adriana studies biology. And it says, A, set up an inequality that indicates that the number of hours spent studying algebra cannot be negative. All right, so obviously we can't have negative study hours. So for part A, we want to represent that restriction, right, or that condition, right? So the number of study hours for algebra cannot be negative. That means it can be 0 or positive, which means X would have to be less than or equal to 0, okay? Similarly, they want us to represent the restriction or the condition that the number of study hours, so set up an inequality that indicates that the number of hours spent studying biology cannot be negative. So similarly, that would mean Y, because Y represents the number of hours studying biology. So that would mean that Y would be greater than or equal to 0 as well. Okay, so that takes care of A and B. The next thing that they ask us to do is set up an inequality that indicates that the combined number of hours spent studying for these two classes is at most 12 hours. All right, so now listen. So the combined number of hours of study. So the combined number of hours of study is an addition, right? So we're going to take X and Y, right? So let's start with X plus Y. So X plus Y, so they're saying the combined number of hours studying biology and algebra, what? Cannot, is at most, keywords, at most, what? 12 hours. So at most means it can't be any bigger than 12 hours, but it could be less than 12 hours. So that means less than or equal to 12 hours. And that's it. So X plus Y is less than or equal to, right? Now if it said less than, we wouldn't have the equal sign. But since it says at most, we add the equal sign. So now D says graph the solution set to the system of inequalities for these three, for A, B, and C. All right, so again, so basically, the first thing you notice is if X and Y are greater than or equal to 0, then that restricts us to the first quadrant. So we know that everything's going to be in the first quadrant for our graph because it's greater than or equal to 0 in the Y direction. So that means this is the equation. What does this represent? This represents the x-axis, right? So the x-axis, so we're dealing with everything above the x-axis, and x being greater than or equal to 0 means that we're dealing with x equal to 0, which is the y-axis, and everything greater than or equal to is to the right, right? So that means that we're on this side, right, of the y-axis, and we're on this side of the x-axis. Okay? And again, you could use test points, right? Use 1, 1. So if you stick 1 in here, 1 is definitely greater than or equal to 0. 1 is definitely greater than or equal to 0. So again, confirmation. Okay. Now, let's plot this. This is x, x plus y is less than or equal to 12. Okay. So now, if we use the y-intercept method here, if we want to solve for y, we could do that, right? Or we could use you could find the intercepts. Okay, so if we find the intercepts, we know that the y-intercept, and I'm going to do this by, let's see, 2. Yeah, so we'll do this by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So we have one intercept here and one intercept here. And so this is going to go like that. Okay? And then of course, if you plug in the origin 0 as your test point, 0 plus 0 is 0, and we get 0 is less than or equal to 12, which is true. So that means we're going to be everything on this side of the line. Okay? And so when we do that, now we see that the boundary of all of the overlapping shaded regions is going to be here to here to here. And so we get this shaded region. And the points are easy in this case. We got the corner points are going to be 0, 0, 0, 12, and 12, comma 0. All right, that's it. Have a great day.